video, we're going to be taking a look at how to co-parent with someone who is narcissistic or on the spectrum of narcissism or sociopathy. Tricky, very, very tricky area, to be fair. And a lot of clients that we work with are in this position and have to kind of be quite smart about how they do this. So the first things first is to educate yourself on what narcissism is all about and to understand the patterns around narcissism, like gaslighting and invalidation of your reality. So a narcissist is in essence a person where they lack empathy and they're very focused on themselves getting their own needs met. They're also driven by the desire to have empathy and adulation in their direction. So they're not really able to put themselves in another person's shoes or empathize with another person's position or really have much care or the ability to reflect and look back with any kind of feeling. So they're rather unfeeling kind of person, and it's very much all about them and their universe. From a covert narcissism perspective, you get the slight trajectory where they're a little bit of a victim. So not only do they have the position of lacking empathy and it being all about them, it's a poor me kind of story. I'm the one that's always struggling and I'm the one that's tough and I have a terrible life and it's all bad. And oftentimes covert narcissists react differently when they're stressed because they also have a position of high anxiety. So they could withdraw when they're very, very stressed and kind of stonewall for days on end. Or they could become more volatile when they're stressed and kind of really fight back, but from that victim perspective. So the thing is when you're co-parenting with someone like this, it's a really difficult position because it's a lose-lose kind of position. And there can be a lot of gaslighting involved. So gaslighting is when your reality is being diminished or questioned. For example, well, no, I never said that, or that never happened, or here you go, you're just crazy again. You're always making things up, you're very unstable. So they're making very strong statements about you and your character. And it's important when you're in that position of being gaslit not to defend, because when you defend or justify yourself, you're kind of playing the game with them. The key is to get yourself to a place where you're not playing the game, you're playing the focus, which is that ultimately the children are in a good place and the children are in the best position. Now, a couple of really important factors about narcissists. Not only is it all about them and they're seeking supply from people that adore and empathize with them and give them adulation, they also don't like looking bad. So being cornered or in a position where they're going to be painted as the bad guy or the bad person in the situation, they won't like that at all. And they often try to have strategies and tactics where they redeem themselves or look good or they save the day. So if you're co-parenting with someone like this, you've got to kind of figure out, what's my mission here? I could go option A. Option A is I've got nothing to do with them. We drop the kids off at the gate. I hate them. I have nothing to do with them. We can do all our communications on an online platform like the Family Wizard platform. We don't have anything to do with each other. We only communicate through lawyers. Everything's very litigious, and it's a kind of point scoring mechanism. This is very expensive. This is very onerous. It's very irritating. It takes a lot of energy and stress to maintain that kind of position. And for a lot of parents that I work with, it just sucks the life out of them to maintain that position. And it can often really affect new partnerships that they're in because it's just this endless drama over here in trying to avoid the situation over there. A tactic that I've encouraged some parents to use, and it's actually worked quite effectively, is what I would call the dumb fox tactic. So understanding that a narcissist is driven by adulation, they're driven by wanting to look good, they're driven by people fawning all over them, and that they're the cleverest in the room and they're the heroes of the story. You can actually use that position against that person to get what you ultimately want. So if your goal is that your kids are really regulating well, they're in a good position, that you guys aren't at war with each other, as parents, and that then the kids' needs come first and they are center of the process. Dumb fox is a pretty interesting strategy. It doesn't work in all instances, okay? So it really doesn't work that well when the dynamic used to be very toxic and you have extricated yourself from that toxic environment. And you are very, very damaged and traumatized by what has happened. But it does work when you've gotten out of it and you can still sort of communicate with this person, but it's like a bit of a nightmare. Dumb fox is basically falling slightly on your sword and playing a little bit of chess with that co-parent. By letting them feel like they're winning, but they're not actually winning, you're winning. So a grandmaster in a chess tournament will concede some pieces to ultimately win the overall chess tournament. This is a similar kind of strategy. What you're doing is focusing on the end game, which is that the kids are the best. Examples of this are, hey, knowing you as a great mum, I know that you care massively about little Phoebe doing great at the school recital on Friday. And knowing that you care about that, I was thinking maybe we could attend together and show support. I'm sure that you, being in that position where you care so much about your kid, would understand that for Phoebe, that would be the best position for her. What do you think? Okay? So it's kind of flipping things around where, well, of course, assuming that you're going to be an amazing parent because that's who you've always been. And I think that this is what we should achieve, or this is what we should do. Okay? So that strategy has worked massively well for quite a few parents that I work with, where they make it look like the other person is the magnanimous one and that we're ultimately doing something good for the kid and they're going to look good and I'm just following along with that. So there's some boundary lines drawn up of like, I'll stand over here and you stand over here, but I think this is what we need to do for the kid. And I know that you always put the kids first because that's just who you are. Even though you don't think that they do, you just say it anyway. That's kind of strategy option for you. Another strategy is to go, you know, in the past, you've always stated that you have a concern about Sarah's schooling and how disciplined she is. And an idea that you had a few years ago was that she get a tutor. I actually have come around to completely agreeing with you on that. And I agree that she should get a tutor. And I've gotten the names of 3 different people, and here are their details. I know you would want to vet them and choose who's best. I particularly think this one and this one that you choose is probably not the one that you want. But please feel free to let me know what your thoughts are. But I was just following on from an idea that you had a few years ago anyway. It doesn't matter that they never came up with that idea, because they will never say that they didn't come up with a good idea associated to the care of their children because they want to look good in terms of their children. So they will probably agree with you, and they'll probably choose something counter to what you chose so that they ultimately control the narrative and have control. So you proposing somebody that you don't really think they will choose and putting in a list the people that you actually want in the pool, they will then choose who they want, and it might be that the person that you actually want is the person that they choose. So it's a little bit wily, it's a little bit around the block, but it's kind of still working with the person and using some of their traits against them to get what you want. Another option is around finances. So for example, there's a school trip coming up and you want your ex-partner to pay for that. And again, you're falling on your sword a little bit, rolling your eyes as you write the email or make the phone call, and you're like, look, you've always been so generous. And, I've always, myself and the kids have always really appreciated everything you've done. And there's this excursion that is coming up, and I think it would be really beneficial from these perspectives. And I know, little Phoebe would just be over the moon if she went. What do you think about sponsoring this? Okay, again, we're pointing out how magnanimous they are because they love looking good and they love people thinking that they're generous. We're actually stating that they're going to get more adulation and praise if they actually go ahead with this. And we're outlining some of the benefits. And then if we end with a little kicker of like, it's of course up to you, but I just thought, given that, you know, who you've always been, that this was something that was up your street. 9 times out of 10 in my experience of working on these kind of strategies, they say yes, and you get what you want. Same thing with the negotiation in a divorce. We're playing on their generosity. We're playing of, well, of course you want the best for the kids. We're playing on some of their weaknesses and turning them around against them. I know that is controversial because a lot of people would just recommend the approach and tack with narcissists is grey rock. Don't engage, don't have anything to do with them. But how do you work that when you have to co-parent with this person? It's just not feasible. You have to find a way. So we have tons of strategies within our divorce strategy program where we teach people how narcissists work, and using principles of nonviolent communication, using human needs psychology, we work out strategies with the person and their scenarios in their life, how to communicate with the narcissist and bring that person around. We've been really successful in many cases. So if you're interested in this and you kind of want to like work out a different tack where you have a better partnership with this person that is very difficult and acrimonious to work with, book a clarity call and have a chat with us so we can talk you through how that strategy program works. Thanks.